Hello there, everybody. I know that generally a lot of my work is more geared towards advanced players. I explain things in terms that are probably a little bit too much for the casual person to understand, or just a little bit more complex than a lot of people would like. But I do think my work is really important for every out of the park baseball player. So today I'm going to be generalizing and simplifying a lot of my things to just simple statements to try to give you guys uh, this the entire work I've done basically in just a quick little video without having to go through all the complex stuff. So this is going to be 10 tips going in reverse order. I'm not going to go too in depth. Number 10, manage your budgets well. Okay, so the first thing about this is you got to make sure you're putting $36 billion into player development every year. This helps your lower prospects, your middle prospects, your upper prospects, your top prospects. It helps build depth. It helps get your top players developed. It helps get meaningful talent, trade bait, everything really. The $36 million into player development is huge. I cannot overstate how important it is for every team to put the $36 billion into player development. Make sure you're not getting into really bad situations with payroll either. Financial flexibility is huge. Do not get bad contracts. Make sure you can move anybody at any point if you need to. Don't get your payroll up to a point where you just cannot afford it and you're massive debt. That will really hurt your team in the long term. I think I've got that explained in other places as well. But yeah, just don't get into really bad situations with your finances. Number 9, personnel are really important. Do not skimp out on them. Know what to look for in every officer position that you've got. Make sure you're getting the best possible people available. So I actually made a video recently about what to look for in personnel. I'm going to link that in the description. If you want to know more about that, be sure to check that out. But generally speaking, personnel are really cheap. Their impact is just huge. Be sure to get the best ones you can. Hire them yourself. It'll take like 5 minutes in the off season to find and hire the best personnel. And I cannot overstate how big it is for your team. Number 8, fill your farm with good personalities. Do not carry bad personalities in your farm unless they are star level talent. Be sure to go through your farm regularly and release bad personalities. Go through the minor league free agents list and be sure to hire guys on minor league contracts if they are going to have good personalities and help out your farm. At the lower rounds of the draft where you're out of the top talent, be sure to be picking up good personalities as well. What do good personalities mean for your farm? Well, first of all, players with good personalities are more likely to reach their potential. They're more likely to develop better. They're more likely to exceed their potential. Players with bad personalities are less likely to do so. Players with good personalities will also influence players in your dugouts to be more happy. It'll improve your chemistry, which will improve those players' player development. And there's another effect as well. Players with good personalities can improve the personalities of players around them. So you might have a top prospect who doesn't have an ideal personality, but you fill him with good personalities at every level of the farm, and you start to see better traits developing from him. You start to see him developing some things that might help him reach his potential or become a better player, be a positive influence in the dugout. But whatever it is, having those good personalities in your farm makes a big difference. Make sure you're cleansing the bad ones regularly. Make sure you're picking up good ones to fill the holes, etc. Number 7, never go into win now mode. I say this all the time, and yet I still occasionally see people who are doing cycles of rebuilding and competing. Don't do it. Okay? You should never be purchasing players to help you immediately unless they are really cheap to pick up. You always want to be focusing on the future. And here's the big reason why, okay? This is revolutionary stuff here. It's easier to invest in the future than it is now. When you're trading away a rental for prospects, those prospects are going to have greater total value to your organization than the player you're trading now. So what does that mean? It means that when you get to the point that those prospects produce or are in the major leagues, you start playing better. So if you constantly do that, where you're cycling out your top players, your older players for younger, better players, in the future, you're always going to be doing better and better and better until you reach really ridiculous win totals. You should easily be winning 100 plus games a year, and I'm not exaggerating about that. You should be winning 100 plus games a year once you get settled into a save and you're used to the game a little bit. Number 6, do not rely too heavily on free agents, okay? A cheap acquisition here or there is fine. Somebody who's like a reclamation project is fine, but your core should be built from your youth, from trades, from development, etc. It should not be built from the free agents. Okay? So this means that if you've got like generally what I recommend signing relievers, backup players, and cheap options, okay? So if you've got a hole in your lineup and there's a player who fills it on the free agent list that is, say, $8 million to sign, but they're really more like a $15 million player, then get them. Absolutely. Put them in there and build up their trade value, get rid of them for better players, or you hold on to them and have them just fill that spot in your lineup for much cheaper than they're worth. Relievers generally are not expensive to sign. The best ones, and I mean the best ones, cost about $15 million off the free agent list. Generally, like the reliever of the year caliber relievers are $10 million. So it's just not a huge investment. They can make a significant impact on a team that does not have high-end relief pitching. Um, you can occasionally find pitchers, relievers who had a down year or something, and they're top relievers, like four-star guys, but they're only like $2 to $3 million. Those guys are good value to sign as well. Backup players, again, usually only $2 to $3 million. If they implode, it's not a sunk cost. It's just a little bit of wasted money, and they can add slight value to your team if you don't have somebody that you developed to fill that hole, because again, that's not something you're really prioritizing in player development, a utility player. So yeah, just do not hand out $35 billion 10-year contracts to a 33-year-old free agent who's going to be completely washed up 3 years into the contract. It just doesn't make sense. And that leads really well into number 5. Do not let yourself get trapped by bad contracts. If it feels like an overpay, it is an overpay. If you have questions like it's kind of on the borderline, then ask somebody. Do not just rashly give out the contract. It can really sink your team going forwards. You don't want to be paying somebody $30 billion a year into their mid 40s when they stopped being a top player a long time ago. Looking at you, Miguel Cabrera, okay? Do not sink into the Chris Davis, Miguel Cabrera contracts. Those will really kill your team. You don't want to be paying out massive amounts of money to a player who is just not productive and you can't trade. Especially with small to medium market teams, that will really sink your ability to spend on actually useful players. So generally, you don't want to be paying players big money past age 35 at all. You generally don't want to be signing guys to contracts that are huge dollars per year, just things like that. Don't get trapped by bad contracts. Don't put yourself in that position. Always make sure you have the ability to trade somebody. If somebody's starting to fall off a little bit, they've got some time left on their contract and big bucks, get rid of them as soon as you can. Do not let them become a bad contract. Number 4, do not judge players by their overall ratings, okay? Take each individual rating, determine how it affects your team, and then combine it to evaluate a player. If you don't know what ratings do, and I'll probably make a video of this in the near future, I'll link it in the description when it's made. Just do some research, ask around, ask me for explanations of what ratings do, how important they are. Use my projection system. My projection system will tell you how important each rating is. Or you could just plug players into my projection system. It's just one of those things where you want to make sure you're getting the proper evaluation of the player. How impactful are they on your team? What context do they fit in? Do we need a really good fielder? Are we having issues on defense? Okay, then this guy with really good defense is even more valuable than he normally would be, whereas this slugger who doesn't really fill this position well doesn't make too much sense for us. I cannot overstate how important it is to look at a player for what they are rather than what the game tells you they are. All right, okay, number 3. Always have the highest ability catcher you can at all times, period. It's much cheaper to go with defense at catcher than it is to go with hitting, and it will pay huge dividends. I have Austin Hedges ranked as the number 64 player in the game and like the number 6 or something overall catcher by my projection system. I think that's pretty representative of where he is. And remember, his ratings have dropped this year. He's probably higher at the start of the year than he is now. Austin Hedges' defense is just so valuable to your team. That top end catcher ability, the arm helps as well. And even though he's not going to hit worth a dime, he's still an extremely valuable player. He'll cost you less than $5 million a year. He takes nothing to trade for, and he is a top player. Catcher ability is huge. It will really help your pitching staff, especially in the live era where you've got a lot of high stuff, low control guys. Catcher ability reduces walks, it adds to strikeouts. It is big. Get the catcher ability, guys. Number 2, Have a good defensive shortstop. Now, notice that this is number 2. This is more important than catcher ability. Despite the 3 true outcomes nature of the game, there are still a lot of balls in play, and the shortstop gets more of them than any other player. Having a rangy shortstop with a good arm will help turn hits into outs a large amount of the time, and it will make a big impact on your defense overall. Andrelton Simmons, another guy who can't hit worth a dime. He is ranked 9th on my spreadsheet right now. He is like the 2nd or 3rd best shortstop in the game. He is very cheap to get from the Twins day one. He's making $10 million a year, but he's worth more like 25. The dude is ridiculous. Shortstop defense is so valuable in out of the park baseball. It's even more valuable in areas where you don't have as many strikeouts. It's just, I can't say it enough, guys. Get the fielders at the premium positions. It pays huge dividends. And number 1, the single most important thing I can say to new players: make sure your scouting system is set up properly. If you can't evaluate players well, nothing else matters. You will fail at every single other point I have said here if you do not have a good scouting system. You don't even need to put money into your scouting budget. I run a minimized scouting budget pretty much all the time right now. And why is that? Because I always run a highly favored tool scout. You always want to have a highly favored tool scout. I'm going to be making a video on how the scouting system works later today. I will link that in the description. It is just so important to make sure you have your scouting system set up well. Okay? Highly favored tool scouts just tell you what a player is. Every other type of scout will lie to you. They will mix in statistics to the ratings and just give you a blended view of what the player actually is. It's not accurate. Get a highly favored tool scout. That is the single most important thing I can say to anybody playing out of the park baseball. If you don't have a highly favored tool scout, you're screwing yourself. Okay, that's just no other way to do it. You've got to get the highly favored tools scout. I'm going to say it one more time. Get a highly favored tools scout. If your team feels like it's underperforming and you do not have a highly favored tool scout, you get a highly favored tool scout, everybody's ratings are going to go down. I guarantee it. Okay? And that is the most important thing for out of the park baseball players to know. At least in my opinion, but I'm pretty sure just about everyone is going to agree with me on that. Anyways, guys, I hope this video was helpful for you. I hope that these tips are going to help you improve your gameplay. Let me know if you have any questions. I'm more than happy to answer them. If you want me to go more in depth on stuff, ask me. I'll make a video or I'll talk to you about it, and we can go from there. Anyways, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys on the next video.